Hi, everybody. We're just gonna wait until about 3:32 to 3:33 to see if anybody else comes in a little bit late. And then we'll get started. Welcome, everybody. I have two screens, so I have all your Zoom images on the right screen and then my notes on the front. Um, but we're just gonna wait a few minutes. Welcome. So we're gonna wait a few minutes until a little bit after 3:30, just to see if anybody pops in a little bit late, and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone. So I'm just gonna, I know that a few of you have already heard me say this, but I'm just gonna wait another minute or two just to see if anybody pops in, and then we'll get started. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? So I'm Jackie. I am the success coach for RHSA. And I'm really excited that you guys are all here. I wasn't even sure if anybody would attend my event. So this is mostly to give you a basics or a foundation of time management and figuring out what to prioritize for your assignments, and a little like chat about motivation and just like the reality of getting yourself motivated to do your work. And let me know at all during the Zoom if you have any questions. You can like raise your virtual hand, or you can just, I totally don't mind if somebody just starts talking. Um, or you can use the chat on the side to let me know that you have a question. So let me just open that in case anybody does have a question. All right. So the general overview is just time management and motivation. So let's start with time management, because this can look different for each person. It just depends on your needs. Some people, time management is just a matter of taking a look at what you have to do, and like, you know, how much time it takes you to read an article or how much time it takes you to solve a problem. That's great, but not everybody has that skill. So it kind of starts with figuring out what needs to be done, when it needs to be done by, and how long it takes, and then where you're going to do it, and if you're going to do the homework or the classwork with a partner, or multiple people. So in terms of figuring out what needs to be done, you have to think about prioritization, like how urgent something is, how important it is. If you take a look at your syllabus, hi, welcome, Felix, it's great to see you. So we're just talking about time management and prioritization right now. So welcome. So with your syllabuses, most of them, or sometimes it'll be on Blackboard, it'll give you the percentage weight of an assignment. So I always tell students, take a look at the percentage weights. If there is an assignment that is due every class, let's say like participation, or if it's an online class, sometimes participation means posting on Blackboard. So you can have a participation grade that is maybe 5 to 10%, but you're doing it every class. In that instance, when it's a lower percentage and you're doing it every class, and if you have to, obviously you always want to put in the maximum amount of effort you can, but if you have to prioritize, let's say you have a final essay coming up that's due, and that essay is 10 to 15% of your course grade overall, then when it comes to the lower percentages, you want to prioritize getting them done rather than being like a perfectionist and getting them done perfectly. So thinking about the difference between getting it done and getting it done well are some ways to identify whether you should, what part of your assignments you should be doing, which assignments you should be prioritizing. So like for the final essay in this instance, you would want to get it done well because it is a large portion of your grade. The participation grade, just showing up or just posting on Blackboard, prioritizing that you get it done so that you get some points, might be what you want to do in that situation. But again, it depends on the situation that you're in. And if you need help figuring this out, or if you need help with anything that I talk about during this, please feel free to send me an email or schedule an appointment with me. I'm more than happy to go over this with you. I have a few students who I sat down and we reviewed their syllabuses and we went through and planned out, you know, when is everything due and when you might want to start working on it. So I would love it if you could get out your syllabuses and just take a few minutes to look and see the percentage weight of the assignments that you have that might be due for this semester. Absolutely feel free to do it now, just while I talk a little bit more about prioritization. But just so that you are doing something actively that helps you, grab whichever course that you're looking to do better in, or one that you're struggling to get the work done. Feel free to take that out now and work on that. So, and let me know if you have any questions. For anybody who joined a little bit later, you can raise your virtual hand, or you can just start talking and I'll hear you, or you can put your question in the chat. So prioritization, do you need to get it done now, or do you need to get it done well? To begin, you might want to take a look at the urgency and the importance of the homework or the assignment that you need to do. So if anybody has heard of this, there are the 4 quadrants of urgency versus importance. So quadrant 1 is important and urgent. That could be something that's due this week. That could be something that carries a lot of weight or has a big impact on your life or your grades. So this could be a doctor's appointment that you need to get to, or it could be an assignment that you have to get done by the end of this week, which you need to work on it throughout the week. So urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is important, but not urgent. So this could be a long-term project. So oftentimes you'll have a project that's due at the end of the semester that you don't necessarily need to get done right now, but you probably do need to work on right now. Planning ahead for the rest of the semester is definitely important, but you don't necessarily need to get it all done right now. You could get some of it done. You could get the next week done, but you don't necessarily have to do it right now. Studying in advance and starting early also could be part of the important, but not necessarily urgent. So quadrant 3 is not important, but urgent. So this could be hanging out with your friends. Let's say your friends want to go do something and they're doing it immediately right now. They're going this weekend. Obviously urgent, you're doing it this weekend, but not necessarily important. So identifying where these things fit in each quadrant will help you figure out, what do you need to do. And spending time with your friends is absolutely important in some cases, because you need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure that you're not going to burn out and that you're not just spending 100% of your time and energy on working on course or work related things. But sometimes you just need to prioritize. Sometimes it'll be a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks of lots of studying and lots of homework because you have midterms coming up or you have finals coming up, but make sure that you can fit some time for yourself in with your schedule. And it helps a lot to build a calendar where you can see, I guess it depends on if you are a visual learner or if you have another way to organize your time, but sometimes it helps to literally see where you have free time and what time you should be doing your homework. And so that you have a better concept of when you should be studying and when you should be doing work and when you should be spending time with your friends and whatnot. Or like me, binging Netflix. So quadrant 4 is not important and not urgent. And there are a lot of things that can go into this. For me, that would be Netflix. For you, it might be something totally different. It might be you love cooking, or you just very often have things, or we just very often have things that we want to do that may not be time sensitive, that tend to come to the front of our minds when we're doing homework, or when we're doing classwork, or when we're attending a meeting that we need to attend. So figuring out the weight of your assignments, how much effort you need to be putting into those assignments, because you don't necessarily need to bend over backwards for every single assignment that you do. Sometimes the most important part is knowing that you understand the concept and just getting across in a very concise way that you understood that concept. It depends on your class though. Every class is different. Every professor is different. You have to read the syllabus and the rubrics to figure out what needs to be gleaned from each assignment and each chapter. And I'm more than happy to help you with sitting down and reviewing your syllabus if that's something that you want to do. So for the next part of time management is creating the calendar for, I mean, I already talked a little bit about this, but creating a calendar to show you what is due when can be really, really helpful. Especially if you're anything like me and I tend to forget about things so easily. I absolutely have to have everything either in one place in a checklist or in one place in my calendar. Everybody's different. I personally have ADHD, and there's this huge thing about out of sight, out of mind. So you could tell me something and I could be like, yes, that's super important, and then completely forget about it unless I've written it down somewhere or put it on my calendar. Can't tell you how many times I've missed like times to hang out with friends, or like I live about an hour away from most of my friends. So if I don't leave at the appropriate time, I'm going to be super late. So I even put like spending time with Alex at 5:30 p.m. on my calendar because I just have to. So identifying what that is for you, understanding yourself, basically self-assessment, figuring out, where you keep all of your information. Do you need to keep it all in one place, or are you the kind of person who, like, your work-related information is in OneNote, and then your school-related things are all in Blackboard? So it just depends, and like figuring out who you are and how that works for you can really help you with preparing for the semester. And this is something that you might be working on all semester. It might be something you might be working on for the next 2 or 3 years. It's totally fine to not know yourself and not know your method of organization or what works best for you for a little bit of time. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to help you figure out. And there are a lot of students who did not come to college knowing their own organizational skills. So that is completely normal. So putting in the calendar your due dates and times for your assignments. Having a separate, I like to use Google Calendar. Some people use Apple Calendar or Microsoft, whatever works for you. Try to keep everything in one place. I know that with Google and Outlook or Microsoft, you can have multiple accounts. So I have one account for all of my important things. So that could be doctor's appointments. It could be an interview. It could be something that I have to do for school. Everything important goes in one place. And then I have a separate junk email. It's literally JackieCowJunk@gmail.com. If you ever want to send junk email to there, I will literally never see it because I never check it. So like I have a separate email for things that are not important at all. And then that way I have on my calendar, if I need something that it needs to get done, I can select just that calendar and see where everything is due. And then if I have things that are totally not important that I might go to, like a free concert, which are literally everywhere, I'll put that on my junk calendar, and then I'll take a look at my calendar and say, oh, that's something that I can do. I like to keep them separate because sometimes it stresses me out to see all of the things that are due. And it's not great to be stressed out every single time I open my phone and see my calendar, because I have my calendar set as my home page. So I specifically set it so that I can only see it when I select it, so that I am not stressed out 24/7, because again, mental health is super important. But also staying organized is very important about success and being prepared for the semester. And it's never too late to start your preparation process. We are halfway through the semester, and it is totally okay to start preparing for the rest of the semester. When it comes to your work specifically, preparing to get your homework done does not have to be a one-step process of, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to read the assignment, I'm going to do it right now. Especially, so I met with the director of disability services, and she gave me, I was talking to her about this workshop, and she gave me a tip of that she always tells her students, which is split it up into a 3 or 4 step process. The first step is to pick a day or time where you do not plan on doing your homework. You do not plan on doing any sort of work at all. Just plan on reading the assignment, identifying the due date, the requirements, and maybe thinking about, you know, how you're going to tackle the project. But don't tell yourself that you're going to do the assignment. Just let yourself know that you're just reading it, that this is all you're going to do is you're going to read it, you're going to read the questions. You skim the chapter titles, or if you have like a PDF text, just skimming like the first paragraph of each section to see what the general information is about, just to get your brain processing like what needs to be done. And then that way, if you see that it's a relatively simple homework assignment and you know that it'll only take you maybe 30 minutes to an hour, then you can just plan, you know, I'm just going to get it done after class on Monday. And then that way it's out of the way. As opposed to, oh, this is a really heavy homework assignment. Maybe I should get someone to help me with this, or maybe I should sit with a tutor while I work on it. So just plan a day or time to read it and not do any work. And then the next step is to plan some sort of time frame where you're just going to start working on it. And don't even plan on finishing it. If you do, that's great, but tell yourself that you're just starting working on it. And if you don't finish it, that is perfectly fine. And that is the plan. And that way it just gets you started. For some people, I know that for me, the roadblock sometimes, for a few people that I've met with, the roadblock can be the starting process, because it seems like so much work, you're going to be doing so much. But if you tell yourself, I'm just going to spend the next 20 minutes just to start it, just to get myself started and see where I'm going to go with this, kind of assess how much time it's going to take you to finish the project or to finish the homework assignment, then that helps you with the motivation to get started, to finish the rest of it, I mean. And then the third and multiple next steps would be to assess how much time it takes you to complete it, and plan those days and times where you're going to work on it. And this obviously does not always work out. You don't always say, you know, I'm going to work on this Wednesday and Thursday, and I should be done by Thursday night. Plan multiple times so that if something comes up, let's say you are exhausted by Wednesday night and you just had one heck of a day and you didn't know that it was going to be like this, you've given yourself a little bit more time that you can utilize to finish the assignment in case it doesn't get done. It also gives you a little bit more time that if you realize that you've gotten to some sort of part of your project or your assignment that needs to get done that you might need help with, you have a few extra days to contact tutoring services, or to meet with your tutors, because it's a drop-in sort of type thing with most of tutoring. So that gives you some time to meet with your tutor and say, hey, could you help me with this? And if they can't, then you can contact a professor. So with that being said, time management is really different for everybody, because there are going to be certain things that you can do that somebody cannot do. I mean, I have coworkers who I can tell them something and they'll remember it. I'm not that kind of person, so I have to write everything down. And it just depends on who you are. And I'm more than happy to meet with you to see if we can figure out what works best for you. Or if there are tons of resources at this university and elsewhere that you can utilize that not everybody knows about. For me, one of my favorite things is the Microsoft Immersive Reader. I don't know if anybody else has heard of this, but sorry, I just saw a message, a question. How can we schedule studying time for a flipped class? I keep avoiding it and prioritizing assignments over studying time. So I'm assuming by flipped classroom, you mean that you do your assignments in class and you listen to the lectures outside of class. Is that correct? I'll give you some time to answer.
Yeah, I was the one that asked that question because for my bio class I'm a freshman. My bio class is a flip class. Basically, we are supposed to watch the lectures and read the materials to title class, and then the class time is just for questions and clarification, basically.
I see. Okay. So for a flipped classroom, one thing that you can do is you can take your syllabus And if you have a textbook or if you have any PDF readings that you have assigned to you, usually your syllabus will have like the list of learning outcomes or what you're going to review or what assignments you're going to have done for the next week. You can take that and bring it to tutoring services and you can ask your tutor to help you just understand, like if you don't understand the lectures, you can sit there with your tutor and having additional information for your tutor to review can help them explain things for you. Sometimes so this is kind of part of the motivation piece that I'm also going to talk about is sometimes being in a location where other people are doing work or you know that the tutor is there and they might check in on you, like having that accountability can help with getting the work done. When it comes to tutoring services, I like to remind everybody that tutors are human and they forget things. And sometimes they just need to be reminded of the content because they don't know everything all at once. So when you go to tutoring and you need help with something, it is super helpful for the tutors for you to bring your texts with you. And again, whether that's a textbook or a PDF or a lecture slide, for you, it might be the actual lecture itself that you're going to be watching. Letting them review the content with you will help them remember what they've already learned in prior classes. So in terms of scheduling study time for a flipped class, first you kind of want to identify what it is that you need to be studying for and whether you understand that concept. So reviewing that information either with a classmate or with a tutor or with the professor themselves will help. That might also be a great question for your professor. It is never too late to ask your professor questions and they are almost always willing to help. So just sending them an email saying, you know, I'm having a hard time figuring out what content needs to be reviewed before class or like, how do I prepare ahead of time for class? You can just send them an email and they'll oftentimes help you out with that. But if you need help with like writing that email or figuring out what it is, I'm more than happy to help you, like sit down and review your syllabus with you and take a look at the content and see what it is that you can do to prepare. So absolutely feel free. I'm gonna put in the chat. So you can all make an appointment with me through the Now dashboard. So it's uml.edu/now. And then you want to go to My Academics. It's in the top right, generally, unless you're on your phone, then I think it's the hamburger menu. And then right in the middle of the page, it says make an appointment, make an advising appointment. So that's how you can make an appointment with me. And I almost always will make a follow-up appointment, and it's usually a 5-minute follow-up just to check in, you know, have you been to tutoring? Do you need help writing an email to your professor? Do you need help preparing for anything? And then we can just sort of touch base for 5 minutes and see how it goes, and then schedule another follow-up appointment, just kind of for that accountability section to make sure that like, are you acting on the things that we talked about? If not, how can I help you with that? But I also don't want anybody to feel pressured or like this is like another homework assignment where now I have to report to my success coach. It's nothing like that. Like I'm never going to judge you if you don't do something. And let me know if anybody else has any questions. Let's see. Okay, so for the motivation piece, all right, I've got 30 minutes left. I'm going to try to get this done in 30 minutes. If any of you guys are still working on your syllabuses, this is going to be available for you through Blackboard. And what I'm going to try to do is just take like a PowerPoint and put this over a PowerPoint so that you have some visual things to go through. If you want to take this time to work on scheduling or planning for your next, you know, planning like your, I'm already forgetting what it's called, the weight, like taking a look at the weight of your syllabus as I'm planning what you need to do next for your next class, please feel free and let me know if you have any questions as we go through. I know that not everybody can listen and work at the same time, so I understand that that's kind of hard. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it says that the meeting will end in 10 minutes. But let me see if I can extend this. If the meeting does end in 10 minutes, click the same link and you should all be able to rejoin. I am just going to take a screenshot of the names for the sake of attendance. But yeah, so if the meeting does cut short, just click the link and you guys can all join again. But on the motivation piece, be honest with yourself. Like, what is it that makes it hard to do work? Sometimes it's the distractions that are available to you. Sometimes it's just simply not wanting to do the work, and that is okay. You are not alone on that. I promise you, there are other people who get easily distracted or who just simply don't want to do the work. But knowing what it is that you need help with, that you need to help address that motivation piece, that can really, really help with identifying what next steps to take. So when it comes to distractions, finding a place that works for you is really essential. And you know what? This is not going to be the same thing every single time you do homework. Sometimes it'll be a quiet place to study. Sometimes you might want to sit in a cafe where you can hear all of the chatter of everybody else around you. Sometimes you need someplace where you can chat with a friend for 5 minutes and then get back to work. It's going to depend on your mood. It's going to depend on what you need at the time. It might depend on whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Do you do better work when you're with other people? Or do you do better work when you're alone? It just depends on you and how you need to handle things at the time. So feel free to reassess every week that you need to do work. And again, that planning piece, keeping everything in your calendar, putting in your calendar when you have a club meeting, when you have sports practice, how many classes you need to attend. Do you have plans this weekend? Literally seeing how busy you are can help you with planning ahead. Am I going to have the energy to study with friends, or do I just need to sit and do the work myself? It also applies to the time piece. If you have enough time to sit and chat with your friends, spend half of your time. Let's say you spend a quarter to half of your time chatting with friends. Is that enough time for you to get your work done? So looking at distractions, about what sort of location works for you. Sometimes just finding a location where your brain associates this location with work can really, really help. So with that association piece, finding the location, when you see like a whiteboard, does that make you think work? Or sometimes training your brain to associate certain smells or certain sounds can really help with the motivation to actually get started with work. So if you're having, and I'm not saying like, so let's say that I have a candle that's pine scented. I don't have any pine trees around where I live. Don't just light the candle. Well, I mean, if you live on campus, don't light the candle at all, because that is not allowed. I did not tell you to light a candle. I absolutely did. This was recorded. So let's say you have a candle and you or like a room spray that's pine scented. Like, don't just spray it whenever you're doing work. Spray it when you feel like you're being productive or when you feel like you're getting work done, because that association of the positive aspects of studying when you're actually getting work done will help you get started further on. So having a scent that you associate with work, a location, or just a time of day. Sometimes, like, I personally get better work done when daylight is out, just because it makes me feel more motivated. I know that's really general, but it just knowing the different parts of like what helps you will really help with just that getting started piece. And sometimes getting started is the hardest part. If you can, find a location that is not too far from where you live, but leave your phone and your laptop behind if you can. I know with like my phone and my laptop, I have all of my passwords for all of my social media stored, and it's really easy to access other projects that I've been working on. but leaving your phone and your laptop behind and working on a public computer or like a school computer or a library computer, or just working with pen and paper, if that's, what you turn in for your assignments, that can really help with lowering the distractions. If you simply don't want to do the work, if that's what's causing the issues, having an accountability partner can really help with that. So that could be someone from your class, it could be a friend, it could literally be your tutor. If you just go to tutoring and say, hey, could you just come and look at my computer screen every 10 minutes to see if I'm doing work or not? Sometimes that can really help with actually getting the work done because you have somebody to hold you accountable. I know that timer is coming up, so just keep in mind that in 4 minutes, if it closes out, feel free to pop back in. I've only got a few more minutes worth of content. So having an accountability partner can really help, especially if you're working together or you alternate who is doing work. So you could sit down and both of you work at the same time on getting work done, whatever that work is. It could also be that you agree that for the first hour, you're going to get work done and your partner is just going to sit there, make sure that you're doing work, but relax and do something else, like watch Netflix or draw or whatever works for them. And then you can switch, and then that way you have a break and your partner gets to do their work. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 20 minutes. I don't know if any of you have heard of I can't remember, Pomodoro, I think it's called. I'll send you a follow-up email with the information. But there is a study technique, and it's actually designed for students who have a hard time with attention or with executive functioning. So it's where you work for 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And then you get back to work for another 20, 25 minutes, and then you take a 10-minute break. And so you keep moving up in break time so that you don't feel exhausted and overwhelmed by all of the work that you're doing. So 20 minutes of study, 10-minute break, 20 minutes of study, 25-minute break. It just depends on who you are. Yes, Pomodoro method. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad that works for you. Yeah, it's something that I do as well. I have a really good friend. It took him, he was planning on graduating in 4 years, and it took him 7.5 years to graduate. And that's just, it's not that he's a bad student. It's not that he failed a ton of classes. It's just how life happened. And we ended up figuring out that the Pomodoro method works really well for him. So we did a double thing where I was his accountability partner and he was mine. And it's easier for me if I just hyper focus on doing the work once I've gotten it started. But for him, the Pomodoro method works really, really well. So definitely check that out. And I'm more than happy to be your temporary study partner for 1 or 2 sessions. I'm actually thinking of hosting some homework sessions where we can all sit together quietly and do work. I'm hoping to have it both in person and on Zoom so that, not everybody can make it to South Campus where my office is, or North Campus. I'm on North on Wednesdays, fun fact. So not everybody can make it to North or South. So I'm hoping to have a few sessions where we have an hour or 2 hours where I sit and get my work done for my job and you can sit and get your homework done. And then that way we're all sort of each other's accountability partners, and it creates a space where other people are doing work. So it's more likely to be a productive environment for everyone. So the other part of the motivation piece is sometimes it can be really overwhelming to just not know what you need to study for. I've got 60 seconds. I'm sorry, did somebody say something? Okay, great. Just so trying to figure out what you need to study for can be a little bit anxiety inducing sometimes for students. Sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's just time consuming, but like I said before, bringing your syllabus and your texts to a tutor or to your professor's office hours and identifying what it is that you need to study for can really assist, can really help with that piece. So